What is up, my doggies? Today I'm going to be telling you my top 9 anime, my personal favorites, just the ones that I think are the most special to me. Right here at the top, number 9 is Inari KonKon Koi Iroha. Now, this anime is about a girl who gets the power one day to transform into other people, and she uses this as a way to understand the people around her. She ends up gaining friends with these gods, and it's very cute and it's very good. So this is one of the newer anime on this list. It came out in 2014. And I really like this anime because of the way that it handles the relationships between characters. And I mean this as all sorts of relationships. There's a main romance, there's friendships, and there's the relationships between family members. And they explore all these very well, especially I think the main romance they do a very good job of. Inari is pretty mature for her age. I think in anime you see these characters making very immature decisions. There's a lot of miscommunication, but this series is kind of more about having better communication by means of her being able to transform into other people. For example, she transforms into her crush's friend more of like as a goof by accident in the situation. And she ends up learning more about him, and she starts to realize that she really didn't know him as well as she thought she did. And she takes a step back from herself and realizes, starts to learn more that like these people are their own people, and they're different from how she perceives them. This also happens in the case of her classmate Sumi Zome, who she initially considers this huge rival, and like as if all the boys like her and want to be around her, and she's popular and she has all these friends, but it turns out she really doesn't, and that she has like a lot of her own struggles that she's going through, a lot harder than Inari herself, in fact. And they end up becoming very close friends, and I just really enjoy how they handle these relationships. It's a very unique and mature look at it for an anime, especially these characters I think are in middle school or early high school. I think middle school. I could be wrong, but they're around that age, mid-teens. It's a very beautiful anime too. I love the backgrounds. They're very painty, and like I said, there's this whole plot with these gods that have the reason why Nari has these powers, and it's very beautiful. It's very pretty. It's cute. It's lovely. It's more unique than like a regular anime about a regular like high school romance anime. It's got its own feel to it that I really enjoy. What I will say I don't like about this series so much is that some of the storylines I don't really click with, that I don't think they did as good of a job of. There's some humor that doesn't hit very well for me, and the manga also I did read, and it was okay. It was pretty much how the anime was, but it did disappoint me in how it ended some of its plot lines. So next we have anime number 8, and that is Made in Abyss, which is the newest anime on this list. This one came out, I think, summer or fall to 2017, but it's one of my favorites already. It's really good. Here's a quick summary. This sort of island that surrounds this huge abyss, and the people of this island make their money and their commerce is all dictated by what they find in this abyss, and the further down you go, the more interesting your finds are, but the less likely you will be okay when you come up the abyss. It's very taxing on the body, and people have only gone so far before you just can't come back up. And this girl is very young. She's like 9 maybe, and her mother is might be at the bottom of the abyss. They make it very unclear at the beginning what's happening, but she feels compelled to go and find out what's happening, and she's very good at going into the abyss, but she's only supposed to go in so far, and she meets this robot kid that seems to be from the abyss, and they form sort of a team and start their journey on their way down together. And I really love adventure anime, and this is one of the better ones that I've seen. The writing is very good. I like it. They have some very unique turns, and it's very strangely realistic. The danger feels very, very real, especially for these children only being children. Riko, she grew up in this town. She knows what she's doing because she's been trained, but they are still children, and things are scary and they are dangerous. Get into these situations that are very character driven, and it's very similar to my comic that I've been writing, and it's super inspired me to make it even better because like I started to realize like, wow, I gotta step up my writing if like this is what's going on here. And the atmosphere is so strong and so cool, and I really pull from that in my comic. And the character designs, amazing. I love Nanachi's design, and the little critters that they meet, the little like monster designs, very underrated. They're really cool. And the uniforms that they wear, the little whistles, that's adorable. I love that. It's so cool. Who would have thought to draw that in a costume? I'm taking notes. I'm out here taking notes. The music too. Oh, the music. The soundtrack is so good, guys. I listen to it all the time, and no other soundtrack I think can make me go from such a joy of adventure to sheer terror so fast. The songs are very emotional just in the music themselves, and when you pair that with the aesthetic of the show and the good animation and the good writing, then you get some very dramatic moments. And it's a lot, guys. The end of the season is so powerful. The payoff is really strong. You really feel for these characters by the end of it, and everything, all the troubles. It feels the weight is there. The weight of every decision is very. You can feel it, and the problems that I have with the series. It's really short right now. We only have that one season as of right now that I'm filming this. And the ending of it is open, unresolved. But hopefully that'll be taken care of in next season, future seasons. I am not going to read the manga because I've heard things that I don't so much like that are in the manga. And also, I mean, I'm excited to see, the animation, like I said, the music I really enjoy, so I'd rather immerse myself in that atmosphere when it comes out in the anime. But hey, if you want to read the manga, go ahead. I hear it's very intense. Black Butler is number 7, but specifically Book of Circus, and I am thinking of the manga too while I talk about Black Butler, more so than the original seasons of anime, although I will mention that when I talk about it. Now, Black Butler is about a child, Ciel. He is put in a situation that is bad, and somehow, in a way that is revealed in the Book of Circus and in the manga, he gains access to a demon, and this demon becomes his butler. Oh, that's funny, but also dark. And this is what happens. And he is a noble, and he runs a lot of things. He's a very serious kid. He's still very clearly a kid in the way that he's written, but he's very serious, and he's very serious about becoming, being exactly what the queen wants him to be, and also, I guess, just doing what he wants to. So he wants to be seen as sort of a professional, but also he has his own agenda. and he uses his demon Butler to help him, and that creates some comedic moments, but also some very, very dark moments. And I really enjoy the characters in the series. I like how long it is, especially when you can when you pull in the manga. I am going to be mostly thinking about the manga when I talk about this. Now, I love they do bring in, the cast is very large, especially in the later chapters. They bring in all sorts of characters from different places. The whole school arc, then they have the circus arc that they have like tons of good characters. I love the characters in the circus arc. I don't know how to not spoil any of it. But Snake, that's a good one. I like Snake. I like Soma. And there's some good characters. Oh, Sieglund. Oh, in the what arc is that called? The werewolf arc. It's really good, and I hope they animate that because she's a really good character, Sieglund Sullivan. So what I really like is the mystery, and the character growth, and the unique setups. Now this is once again mostly in the manga, but at the start of the manga, it's a lot less prevalent, but as the later chapters continue, you start to realize that there are really well set up mysteries. And by well set up, I mean years prior, like in chapters and chapters and volumes beforehand, little hints will be set up to where you could figure out what this mystery is all about. And the payoff is so strong because it makes sense, and you were being led as CL is figuring this stuff out. So are you, and I mean the community has done that. I mean, I'm not so much part of the community, but I hear what happens there, and they do find things out. And when they're figuring these things out, you think there's no way that actually could be the case. But it makes sense that it's the case, but this is just a strange theory. But then it turns out that it is so, and that's actually what the writer was going for. And it's not that it doesn't make sense, it's just you didn't think they were going to go through with it. And it's also the aesthetic that I really like, the costumes and environments. They don't travel much outside of Europe, but they make where they go still feel unique and cool, and I want to explore these places. It's very well drawn, the costumes are very well researched, there's a lot of detail in all of them. Must take forever to draw in the manga, but she's still going, so good job with that. And I don't know, it's also very nostalgic for me, the original anime series, I guess. Because it helped me reconnect with some of my friends. I used to sit down and watch it with my friends and my brothers, and we would write like a little abridged series and act it out, and it was pretty fun. And I drew little stickers, and I handed those out during anime club. Oh, the community. There was a community. Now, what I don't like about the series is really the first two seasons. Now, they were exactly what the anime community kind of needed at the time period, so good for them because it got really popular, but it really doesn't hold up today. It's very embarrassing, actually. It's very tropey, very anime of that time period. The tone is completely off. The beginning of the manga, you couldn't really tell exactly where they were going with this, and the anime just did not judge it very well and went for a very comedic route and kind of disregarded the dark undertones that like really make the later chapters as good as they are. It's fine. I wouldn't watch it with someone else, but maybe if I was like bored by myself, I might laugh at it a little bit. And I mean, it had its good moments. That's Black Butler. Number 6, we have Naruto. Another kind of embarrassing one to put on here, but very nostalgic once again. So Naruto is an anime about a young lad. He is 12, and he feels very alienated from his class of ninjas. And the whole world is filled with ninjas. And he just wants to like pass this exam to become a real better ninja so that one day he could become Hokage, the sort of leader of his village. And he really wants to do this, and nobody really believes that he can because he's kind of a bit of a goofster. He's kind of a prankster, and he doesn't have a lot of friends. But over the course of the series, he makes a lot of friends. He turns enemies into friends. He becomes very good at making friends, in fact. He's probably one of the better ones, maybe the best at making friends, as it turns out, because he starts to realize that everybody kind of feels alienated, and that he isn't actually alone, and that he is very, very powerful and very, very cool. This series is the first anime that I watched that got me into anime. Of course, I'd seen some shows beforehand, but the series started airing on Cartoon Network when I was about 10. It was my favorite show at the time. It was the summer of 2007, and they were marathoning all the Naruto episodes that had aired so far. And I was watching that. I realized that it was my favorite show in the entire world, and that I needed to know everything about it. So I went on the internet, and I was like, Naruto. And then it showed me all the stuff about anime, and I was like, this is what I care about now. So that's how I got into anime. It was Naruto. I really like long-running shonens. That's probably my favorite thing about anime, is when you have this world that you really look into and explore for a really long time. I do like filler episodes. I just want to be around the characters. I want to be in this world. I want to feel like I understand it so that I could be a part of it potentially in my mind. And I want to know all about all the different powers, the politics, the way that people live in this world, how they make their livings. I want to know how they get their food. I want to know if there are dogs. And believe me, in Naruto, there are dogs. There's just really large cast of characters. And you know what? Maybe I don't love all of them, but I definitely remember all of them. I, of course, remember the backstory of Neji. I remember the sacrifices of Choji. And I remember Kiba and how he tried to protect Akamaru at every step of the way, even when things got really rough. He really cared about that puppy. And you know what? So did I. I would say I could probably rewatch the first 100 episodes. That's what I'm most invested in. Of course, it does continue so much past that, and frankly, I'm not invested enough to see all of it. Maybe someday. Probably not. Season 5, that was my favorite season. I like the characters in that season. Things that I don't like about the series, pacing is very slow. There's a lot of repetitiveness. And when you're 10 and you're watching it every so often, this is really good because you can understand, you can remember where you were in the series, and you're very used to rewatching things because they play like the same, like Fairly Odd Parents and SpongeBob 20 times in a week, and you're just kind of used to rewatching it, and you're like, this is fine, this is good, I like seeing it again. I'm 8. But when you're an adult and you're rewatching, like you're binge watching it just straight up all the episodes, you really don't want to repeat the same things. The morals are very good to learn when you are at the age of the characters in Naruto, but it doesn't really go past that so much for when you're an adult. Maybe it does in Shippuden. I didn't get that far into Shippuden, like 50 episodes or so. I know there are a couple hundred. Maybe it gets into that later. I don't know. You can tell me. You can let me know, and then I'll find out. Now we're at the top 5, and these top 5 are what I would consider to be shows that I would recommend and that I would watch again, and that did have a pretty strong impact on my life. And we're going to start this off, number 5, with Death Note. Now, Death Note is a show about a boy who is 17 in high school. He's doing very, very well in school, and one day he comes across this discarded notebook, and it says Death Note on it, and the first thing in the book says, whoever's name is written in this book shall die, or something like that. And of course he at first thinks it's a joke. He quickly finds out that it is not a joke, and that now he does have the power to kill people at will. And he, being a very smart kid, uses this to devise a plan to shape the world in the way that he wants it to be shaped into. And this goes to how he was expecting it to go until the world's greatest detective L is put on the case, and suddenly he has to become very, very witty and very, very careful. It becomes this cat and mouse game between this detective and this criminal who both have very fast-thinking minds, and they think very similarly, in fact, and it becomes this really strong thriller of what's going to happen, what are they going to think of next, because Light has this goal, and Elle has this goal, and they're very conflicting. So it's really a study of specific parts of humanity and these specific characters as individuals. And when I first saw this show, I was about 11, and I really, really loved it, but I didn't exactly know why. And as I rewatched it 10 years after that, and I started to understand a little bit better why I liked it so much and why I found it so interesting. And it really has to do with the exploration of the characters in the show, because it's not a show about what would happen if somebody got this death note. It's a show about what would happen if Light got a death note when he was 17, and what would happen to society if this death note was controlled by Light in Japan at this time period, and this detective very specifically met up with this character. It's very specific. These characters they feel very real because you understand how their minds work, because they explore that. And a lot of the show, it follows the police task force and the detective. There's a lot of profiling, so who these characters are becomes very, very important. Like Misa showing up and who she is and how she is the way that she is, that becomes very important. Every character's motivations have to be taken into account. And I really like that. I think most of all, I think the characters are all pretty interesting, but I find Light to be the most interesting. Now, Elle and Light are very similar characters because they, not only do they think a lot alike, they're both very self-destructive. I feel like they both could have potentially accomplished their goals, but there's just a thing in their personality that wouldn't allow them to do that. It's very easy to watch, is the other thing. The series is super suspenseful, and I don't want to put it down when I'm like a few episodes in and I want to keep going. The music and the imagery all add to this tone that I think even when they have some like comedic moments, it doesn't really break away from the feeling that you have of suspense. It's a mystery thriller, really, is what it is. I have a good time watching it. I think it's very easy to rewatch if you want to pick it up even as an adult. Like it's still really fun. The weak part of the series is at the, a little further than halfway through. It starts to devolve. I really don't like the ending either. It makes sense thematically. It is how it was destined to be. But I don't like how getting to the ending was handled. I think they could have done that in a little more clever of a way, even though it does make sense with the characters. I think it does, but I felt like the build-up just wasn't right, because it was released, a few episodes prior, and then they started building it up again, and before it could really hit, it was like here, and I wanted it to be here. It just wasn't enough. It would have dragged on anyway, probably. Maybe it should just ended on the first. Anyway, I can critique it all I want, but let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, especially Season 3. Now, of course, putting this ahead of Death Note, you might suspect that this is a lot more personal than Death Note may be, because it's, very obviously, it's just not a better anime. It is very nostalgic and appeals to me directly. It's the anime that I've rewatched the most for some reason. I watched it probably like 10 times. Well, it's Season 3 specifically. I'll just keep rewatching Season 3, although I did rewatch the first 2 seasons a couple of times, the 4th one not so much. So Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Season 3 is about a boy named Jaden, and he goes to this academy for dueling. And he's really good at it, but he's also a slacker. He's a slifer slacker, so he gets put in the slifer dorm, which is the worst dorms, and he like gets in trouble a lot because he's always sleeping in class, but he really, really loves Yu-Gi-Oh cards. He loves his cards so much. He really does. He has a superhero deck. Oh, that's so much fun. That's so cool, Jaden. You love superheroes? Oh, that's so neat. Me too. I love superheroes too. So he's got the superhero deck, and he can fuse cards too. That's what's introduced in GX is card fusing, and then you use a polymerization, and then you combine your cards, and then you play a different card, and it's more powerful, and it's really cool, and you can do it with all sorts of cards. You got one superhero card and another superhero card, polymerization. Oh, but wait, you have another superhero card. That one confused with the other two. You mix and match using your polymerization and your other cards. And there's so many cards you can do with that. And so Jaden, he's at this academy, and he makes all these friends, and they have wacky, cool adventures. But then season 3 comes along, and we get foreign students, and then they're funny, and then it turns out there's some other stuff going on, and suddenly we're in a different world, and the Yu-Gi-Oh monsters are there, and they're real, and then people almost die. That's pretty bad. And then Jaden has to find a way to make them not die, and they do it, and they get back to the real world. But Jesse's stuck. Gotta go get Jesse. How are we gonna do that? We have to go back to the bad world, the one where people almost die. So then they go there. Jaden goes, but then all his friends are like, "We're your friends. We're gonna help too." And then they go, and then it's even worse. It's worse than they could have possibly imagined. It's a whole fantasy world, and all the Yu-Gi-Oh. It's bad. And then where's Jesse? I don't know. He's corrupted. Oh no. That's bad. And then all the other characters are like dying, and Jaden's like, that was my fault, but I don't care yet because I gotta find Jesse. And then the friends are like, Jaden, I don't know if I like you anymore. I'm going to die, Jaden. Jaden's like, not right now. I've got a friend to find. And then it turns out that there was this card that Jaden had when he was a baby, and then he sent the card to space, and the card is really bitter about it. And wants all Jaden's friends to die because the card was like, I was your friend, Jaden, and now you have other friends and you sent me to space. And then Jaden's like, you're right, and I'm sorry. I mean, I just love Yu-Gi-Oh. I grew up watching the original series and then the start of GX, but also just enjoyed playing the card game a lot. We used to, at summer camp, the older kids would like sell their Yu-Gi-Oh cards for like a quarter or whatever, and I would have like ice cream money. Instead of buying ice cream, I would buy Yu-Gi-Oh cards because I wanted Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So eventually, one summer, I got to go to Yu-Gi-Oh camp, which is exactly as it sounds. A summer camp where we just hung out and dueled each other all day, and then whoever won the duel got to collect a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh cards from like this prize bin of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I got so many Blue Eyes White Dragons from the summer camp, dudes. I have so many good cards from that year, and that was forever ago. I was very little, but it was a lot of fun, and I love Yu-Gi-Oh. It's so good. I love the dragon cards. They're so cool. I want a dragon Yu-Gi-Oh tattoo. I want Blue Eyes White Dragon and Red Eyes Black Dragon and Rainbow Dragon. There's a kid at summer camp that still owes me a baby dragon. I traded him my Toon World for a baby dragon, and he never gave me a baby dragon, and that was a bad trade to begin with, but I was willing to trade it anyway because I really wanted baby dragon, and he never gave me baby dragon. So if you know my address, mail me a baby dragon. If you're my friend, you'll do this for me. If you care about me, you'll give me a baby dragon. It's cool seeing all the monsters, you know? I'm like, hey, I have that card. I know you. Harpy lady. I have that card. Oh, and then I love the Crystal Beasts that are in Season 3. The Crystal Beasts are so cool. I've drawn them so many times. They're like a rainbow, and then you combine them. They do a little rainbow, and then you can fuse them into the Rainbow Dragon. Not fuse, but you sacrifice. You sacrifice them, and then you can play your Rainbow Dragon. And then Rainbow Dragon's so cool. It's like, it's got little rainbow gems on it. That's so cool. I love it. What do I say about this? I mean, there are so many good memes because it's dubbed by 4Kids. 4Kids, also, they didn't finish. They got about 3/4 of the way through Season 3, and then they just stopped. So the dub is incomplete, but you can watch up to then. I have it on DVD. That's what I do. It's pretty funny. Dub just stops, and then you start watching the sub, and that's fine. For some reason, they decided to make Jesse from North Academy. They also give him a southern accent. I don't know why they did that. They didn't have to. He was originally just like the one from like Europe or whatever. His name was Johan. So, I mean, they could have changed. They could have been like, he's from South Academy, and that's why he has a southern accent. Or they could give him not a southern accent. But I guess they really wanted him to be from North Academy, and they really wanted to get... I mean, I guess that could happen. That's fine. I guess so. It's just kind of funny. It's a huge... Season 3 is a huge arc for Jaden, and I really like that. I like that we finally, like, do something with him, because he's just a goofy character this whole time. This relatable slacker. He's the relatable everyday kid that just wants to sleep during class and eat the fried shrimp. That's all he wanted to do. And suddenly he goes through this like really big character arc, and he becomes kind of a completely different person by season 4. Kind of literally. Foreign students are good too. I like that one of them just has a crocodile that he keeps on his back. Jim, I think. That's funny. Shirley, I think was the crocodile's name. She's just there. And then, I don't know, she doesn't do much. She's just a crocodile. So what I don't like about the series so much, though, is that it's pretty slow in general, but also there are a lot of battles that interrupt the plot, which is really kind of fun and cool when you're in for the first time, but upon rewatching it, it becomes super repetitive and kind of like annoying, because there'll be like 5 duels an episode, and you'll be like, okay, I get it. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! Sometimes duels do really exploit characters because there's a lot of talking between them, but sometimes it's just like to throw in a duel and be like, I'm Jaden, and I love Yu-Gi-Oh! The writing is also very simple. I, of course, just went over Death Note. This is no Death Note. The writing is very clearly for children. It's not like to the level of Pokemon, but it's also, it didn't blow me away. Okay, here we go with our top 3. From now on, I won't have anything bad to say. I mean, I could probably pull some critique to give from them, but I'm not going to because I don't feel like it. They're very close together in how much I like them, and I'm really excited to talk about them. They're ones that I would absolutely, definitely recommend, and that I could put on anytime and be excited to see. And I start number 3 with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So JoJo is about a family line. Each part follows a different JoJo. They have wacky battles with rivals. Usually it's Dio's fault. So I love this series a lot. Araki is my hero. I have his book about writing and drawing manga, and it's very insightful. I like how much he goes into the planning of writing, which are things that I had thought about but I don't see other people talking about. It's insightful. I recommend it if you're someone who writes or draws or both. And the series is really wacky and it's really good. And part 1 is such a fun ride, and Dio's a really fun villain, and part 2, Joseph is everything, and his charisma is infectious, and it makes me want to be witty. And then it's such a good mood. The colors are so good in part 2. Oh, I love it. Part 3, there's stands, and I love Star Platinum. So he's purple, and he's got cool hair, and he punches things really fast. No, and then old Joseph. Oh, so fun. Now he's an old man, and he's doing old man things, but he's still Joseph. He's still a tricky trickster, but he's also old. And then there's a lot of unique fights. And in part 4, there are even more unique fights. And part 4 is so good, and it has my favorite cast. It's got Josuke, and he's such a likable JoJo. And we've got Rohan, and his initials are Arkay, and he draws manga, and he writes it. And he's really goofy because he's got an agenda, and he's not gonna let other people change his mind about things. He's like 20 years old, and that's really funny. He's a baby. He's a straight up baby as far as I'm concerned, but he's already a rich old guy. He's very grumpy. And then we've got Okuyasu, such a good boy, and he's such a good friend, and he's not the brightest one, but he learns and he adapts, and he's got a heart of souls. He's got money signs on his uniform, and then there's Kira is my favorite villain, and Killer Queen. That's such a good stand. And the end of part 4, not gonna give too much away, but do you know what they do, guys? They do time stuff. They do stuff with time at the end of part 4. That's my favorite thing in anime, other than long-running shonens. And when you combine that, I love that, dudes. Steins Gate, ReZero, anime that were very close to being on this list because they do things with time. And time is cool to do things with because you get to see the same scenario in different ways with new information, and you don't know what's going to happen, even though you should know what's going to happen because you've seen it before, but anything could happen because now it's different. It's the same, but it's different. There's time, guys. They're messing with time. I love it. Oh, it's so good. I love JoJo. I like the art style. I love the colors. And here's looking forward to part 5. I love part 5. The characters are even better. I like them even more. I love Giorno, and I love Narancia, and I love Fugo, and I love Bruno, and I love Abashio, and I love Trish. And they've got stands again. There's so much fighting, and the fighting is fast paced and neat. And I like Italy, and they're in Italy. They're babies in a gang, and they have stands, and they just want to do good. Oh, I love JoJo. Oh, I'm so excited, guys. You should watch JoJo. Anime number 2, Hunter x Hunter. We love Hunter x Hunter here at my videos. Hunter x Hunter is so good. Let me summarize it. Hunter x Hunter is an anime about a little boy. His name is Gon, and he's gonna become a hunter, and hunters do things like hunt for things, usually people, as far as the anime is concerned, but sometimes also rare items. And he makes all sorts of friends because he's really good at making friends, this little kid. He's very likable, and I like him. He makes friends with all sorts of people, like Leorio and Kurapika and Killua. Yeah, Gon's gotta find his dad, and so he's like, my dad left me this thing. Let's see what it is. And then Killua's like, oh, we need to get this game to understand this. And then they're like, well, let's get the game then. But then they're like, oh, this game costs a lot of money, but we could get it at this auction. And so then they go to the auction, and then Kurapika's there too. He's got his own agenda. He kind of split off from the group. They see Leorio, and then they have fun together. And then they go inside the video game, and it's a lot of fun. But it's also really dangerous. But then Gon's like, my dad did this for me. He really likes his dad. They beat the game. And they're like, we're gonna see Dad. But then instead of seeing Dad, they see this other man that's not his dad. And then the other man's like, watch out, kid. You could have died. That's a Chimera Ant. And they're like, what? And then that's the Chimera Ant arc. It becomes really, 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 really long. It's a really long arc. So I was first introduced to Hunter x Hunter when I was subscribed to Shonen Jump in the mail when it was like 2008. And I'd get, every month they'd send me a Shonen Jump. And I'd be like, wow, this is Shonen Jump. And I would read Naruto, and that'd be cool. And I'd read, like, Bleach, and I'd be like, this is fine. Anyway, at one point there was Hunter x Hunter. And I was like, I'll read this. And then I started reading it. And then I was like, oh, I don't really like the art style, and I don't really appreciate the characters right now, so I'm not going to read this anymore. Then the 2013 anime came out, and I was like, oh, I remember not liking that, so I'm not going to watch that. But then everybody gave it really good reviews, and then I was like, okay, I'll watch that. And then I watched it, and I was like, I love this. So that's where I am now. It's got my favorite cast of anything ever. And I like it so much, and there's so much character development. The characters at the beginning are completely different from the characters at the end, but I mean, they're the same people, but they act so much, they really grow up in ways that you were there for. And there's so many themes that are introduced throughout the series, really strong themes that I think are really fun and interesting to explore and don't get explored as much as they should. The main character, Gon, loses a lot, as he should, because he's a kid, but as you see him like start to develop things, you can see how like maybe with help he can use this to win. And sometimes he does, and then when he does, it feels like, there's a lot of weight to it because he doesn't always get the win. And maybe the win was really important this time, and it was just great that he got it, or maybe it was really important and then he made a mistake, and you could see why he made the mistake, but oh boy, he's going to have to deal with those consequences now. The storytelling was really effective, I think. I really like the Phantom Troop a lot. I like how they connect with each other, and I like the characters within it as individuals, and I like their powers and how in the series, just in general, their powers are connected to who they are as people, and there are some really unique powers that I like to see, and I like when the show explores it. I mean, you can't go wrong. It's such a good long-running show, and it really explores the world, really explores the characters, and the powers. It very clearly explains the limitations of different powers and how people use them, and who's as powerful as who. You can understand sort of power levels, but also like how one character might use certain tactics that they've developed in the series to overcome a more powerful situation. And it's just interesting to unpack. I don't know. It's really cool. That's another anime I'd recommend. Hunter x Hunter. Watch it. You'll like it. I promise you. I can't promise you, but it's more likely that you'll like it than, I don't know, Inari KonKon. I don't know. Here we have my number one anime, and that is Neon Genesis Evangelion. Now, Evangelion is about a boyo who is 14, and his dad is like, "Excuse me, son, I need you to be inside of this robot, and I need you to use it to fight some angels that are bad." And then the boy, Shinji, is like, "Okay, I guess, Dad." And then he does that, and then he's really sad, but he does it, and then it's really dangerous, and they all get hurt really bad, and it's really depressing, and it's looking like they're gonna lose, but they do it anyway, because what else can you do? The show is more of a character study, of course. It's about characters who are they're not satisfied with where they are in life, and as the world is crumbling around them, they don't know if it's worth it to save this world that they aren't very attached to living in. They slowly learn of these problems and how these characters are slowly trying to overcome them. They don't really care for the people around them that much, but then they start to care for some of them, and then it becomes a problem. And then now I don't want the world to end, maybe, but I think it might happen anyway. I watched it the first time when I was about 14, and I didn't really get it. I wasn't really into it. At the time, I was into more like goofy, wacky anime. And then I rewatched it again when I was like 18, and I loved it a lot. I clicked with it a lot better, and not only did I click with it a lot better, but I made it like my thing. I really loved the designs of like the robots. I thought they were really cool. I think the animation is really fun. I used it to study. Like I did. I would look at episodes, I'd rewatch little clips, and I'd be like, ooh, I'm going to take notes of that explosion. This is a series that I plan on rewatching, but I'm waiting for the right moment. I think last time I rewatched it, I was really connecting with characters like Shinji, kind of getting Asuka a little bit, and I think upon rewatching it, I'll probably end up connecting mostly with Ritsuko. I mean, it's the 90s, that's pretty fun. And the plug suits, oh, that's so cool. The plug suits are so cool. And other than that, it's just a series that's really nostalgic for me because, like I said, when I was 18 and I made it like my thing, I ended up becoming like, this is the first big community that I was a part of. And it was during a time where Evangelion's really a good show to watch during a time where your life is at a big change. I was watching it when I was just graduating from high school and starting to enter college, I had really like lost touch with most of my friends. And so I was starting to be on this online community, Evangelion, and that's where I met my current best friend. And it's the first time I had a best friend that I was this close to, like a real legitimate best friend. And it was because of Evangelion, and we really, you know, connected over it, and I made like a lot of other friends, and I got better at talking to people through being in this community, and it just means a lot to me. But I heard that the fourth movie is finally going to come out in 2020, which I don't know how true that is, considering the last time there was a release date announced. I think it was supposed to come out in 2015, which of course is 5 years prior to where it's supposed to come out now. But you know, hopefully it'll come out and it'll be cool. It's another one where I'd recommend, but more so than the other two, JoJo and Hunter x Hunter, this is a lot more personal to me. If you have the time and you want a real think piece, you want something you could really dissect, this is the shortest out of these three. Those are the 9 anime that I feel most connected to. We'll see if that continues to be the truth in later years. Thank you for joining me. I'm sure that was probably really long. If any of my favorite anime match up with yours, tell me about it. If not, let me know what your favorite anime is. I'll be doing more of these top 9s soon. And for other various things, if you have any recommendations, also let me know and I'll get to them. I'll put my anime list in the description. Feel free to friend me. Peace.